went for treatment to a small European city where dentistry costs half as much as at home. I needed to get myself in order, not only my teeth, but my head as well. I was tired of the hustle and bustle of people, of my life, which I lived every day without taste, like porridge without salt. I decided I would leave alone, without plans, without promises to return renewed. I just wanted to disappear for a while, to become invisible, and a little whole. The clinic turned out to be simple, but clean. The doctors were smiling. The nurse called me by name. I sat in line, listened to the air conditioner dripping, and thought, I wish I could stay here. For a little while, no one knows who I am. No masks. But this anonymity had a strange side effect. People started talking next to me as if I didn't exist. On the day of the second procedure, I arrived early. They asked me to wait a little. The doctor was running late. I sat in the corner, as always, quietly, not disturbing. With headphones, but without music. Habit, so that they wouldn't notice. So as not to disturb, but to hear. Women were talking in the next room, laughing, discussing patients. One of them was talking about the one with the Russian passport. About me. At first, harmlessly.com/polite. Then, the last name, mine. And then, the voice of another doctor. You know, her husband was here. With another woman, I froze. I didn't understand right away. I thought, coincidence. But then, the details, the name, the city, and the phrase that pounded in my head like a nail. They came together. He said that she was his wife. Just not this one. It was as if boiling water had been poured over me. I sat, not breathing, not moving. Not because I was afraid, but because the world had cracked under my feet again, as had happened before. And I realized these women think that I don't understand their language, that I'm just a patient, a shadow. Their carelessness became my truth. I left quietly, without saying a word. Not because I was afraid, but because everything inside was empty. There were no tears, no anger, only surprise. As if I saw in a photo that you have a knife in your back, and it's been there for a long time. We lived together for 3 years. He knew that I was going to the procedures. He even translated the website of this clinic for me. He bought me tickets. And he himself took another woman there. He told her that she was his wife. And he told me that he was busy with work. This was not the first betrayal in my life, but this was the first one like this. Accidental, wordless, without a chance to dispute. No one made excuses. No one asked for forgiveness. It was a fact, said by strangers, without looking me in the eye. I wanted to leave, not come back. But the next morning, I came. I sat in the same chair. I looked into the eyes of the woman who had spoken about me. And I simply smiled. Not an evil smile, not a mocking one, but one in which there is knowledge. I heard everything, and I understood everything. But I am not like you. After the treatment, I returned home. Calmly packed his things. Silently, without scandals. He did not know that I had found out. I did not tell. I simply said, "You are free." Not because he deserves it, but because I deserve peace. Now, I am not looking for new people. I am not only treating teeth, I am treating trust. To myself, to silence, to random words that reveal real faces. And, you know, I don't want to be invisible anymore. I want, when I walk into a room, someone to think. She understands everything, even if she's silent.
Let's move on to the next story. My name is Alina. I'm 32, and I'm the person who once stopped answering the phone when my mother calls. Not because she doesn't love me, but because she can no longer listen to him slowly being erased by her voice. I lived correctly for a very long time. I built myself according to a template. A good girl. Smart, quiet, obedient. I didn't swear, I didn't argue, I didn't ask. I always tried to be convenient, because in our family, love had to be earned. If you're quiet, if you're not capricious, if you don't interfere, if you don't demand, then you're kind of noticed, not loved. No, they just tolerate you a little more gently. I grew up in a house where you weren't allowed to feel. You weren't allowed to cry. You weren't allowed to complain. Everything was devalued. Everything was ridiculed. Mom always said that others had it worse. Dad said that nothing would come of me if I didn't stop making things up. I studied to be an economist because that's how it should be. I went to work in an office because it's right. And I got married because I was already 26. My husband was normal, reliable, silent. He was also happy with this life, without emotions, without conversations. Just home, dinner, silence. No one hurt anyone. No one needed anyone. And I would have lived like that. In this gray, comfortable, safe hell. But one day I woke up with my body turned to stone. I couldn't get up. I couldn't speak. I just lay there and looked at the ceiling. It seemed to me that I was dead. It's just that no one noticed. Then the doctor came, said that I was depressed, that I needed rest, support, calmness. I told my mother, and she said, "You're just lazy." And that was the end of it. I understood. I don't have to explain that. I feel bad. I don't have to endure it. I don't have to be a daughter if my mother doesn't want to be a mother. I packed my things, moved to a rented room, turned off the phone, and started living. Without a script, without instructions, without fear. I didn't know who I was. I had to get to know myself again. I sat in silence and learned to feel. I ate when I wanted. I slept when I was tired. I cried when I was overcome. I allowed myself to be weak. I went to a therapist. For the first time in my life, I said out loud that I was in pain, that it was not my fault, that I was just a person, and not someone's function. A year passed. Then a second. I did not suddenly become happy, but I became alive. I do not wait for approval anymore. I do not call into nowhere. I do not ask to love me as I am. I choose how to be myself. I do not have a family in the usual sense, but I create my environment of people with warmth in their eyes. I do not have resounding success, but there is silence in which I breathe. I am still scared, but I no longer live in someone else's cage. I opened the door myself and went out, even barefoot, even towards the storm, but to where I can finally be myself.